I'm Becky Stevenson, I'm a paediatric dietitian, and I'm going to give you some top tips on how to feed a child who's very fussy with their eating. The first thing that I'd like to say to families is that this problem is very common, and there's been a recent survey that's shown that 40% of families at some point have found meal times with toddlers frustrating. Therefore, you're not on your own. So these tips are really to help all families. So the first tip one is make sure that you've got a really good feeding routine with the child. Children really like routine, so making sure that you stick to the same meal times every day, really setting meal times around what the family are doing, so to suit your family routine. Tip 2. Make sure that meal times are stress-free. So trying to make sure that you've got everybody sat at the table and making sure that the children actually know when the meal times are going to happen, so you can involve them in setting up the table and so they're getting ready for the meal. Make sure that the meal times don't last more than 20 minutes with a fussy feeder, because any longer than that is going to become very stressful for the child and also stressful for you. So allow 20 minutes and then get them down from the table. Tip 4, try to make sure that you don't distract them at mealtime. So making sure that you're not using the TV, you're not using music, and you're not using games to get to feed them, because this will make it very difficult to feed them outside that situation later. So if you're traveling to other families' homes, or you're going out for a meal, it's going to make it very difficult if you've set up this way of feeding the child. Tip number 5, try and make sure that you get the child to eat around other children. So getting them to the nursery is quite a good idea, because the nurseries can be very proactive in helping children to eat, and also the peer environment really helps children feel confident around food and eating. Tip 6, make sure that you praise good behaviour but ignore the unwanted eating behaviours. This is the best way to get your child to eat, so they start to recognise that they only get attention for good behaviours and they don't get the attention for actually the unwanted behaviours. Tip 7, with the older children, one way to get them eating is use a star reward system. So you could give them, set up a star reward system for when they've eaten an adequate meal, or they maybe have tried one new food. But remember, if you're going to trade the stars in for something at the end of the week, try to make it a non-food treat. And then the final tip is that changing children's eating behaviours does take some time. So recognise the small steps that they've made, praise those small steps and be patient. This can take some time, but with consistency, you should be able to get your child to eat a good varied diet.